Welcome back to That's DPI. We are super excited for this week. It is going to be all about the Chiefs. We are going to talk about the Chiefs 53-man roster. We know that there were some trades this week. However, we're going to talk about trades and final rosters all next week because we do expect there to be some more trades and shakeups between the end of preseason 3 and week 1. So make sure you guys are liking and subscribing on YouTube. We also have TikTok and Instagram. Be sure and liking and following us on there so you do not miss out on any of the NFL news because we have next week and then the regular season starts. So, Zach, we are going to be talking about the Chiefs' 53-man roster this week.
Yes, given that we're located in Kansas City, it gives us a really great opportunity to get a handle on both training camp, which, if you've watched our content, we went to. Tyler went multiple times, multiple weekends. So, Lions fans, don't unsubscribe. I promise I will be talking about the Lions. This is only a one-time thing with the Chiefs jersey, okay? It's Dwayne Bowe. It's not that offensive.
Same thing with Eagles fans. We'll talk about Banner Night, and we'll give you guys
we
all the credit and glory you need.
Yes, next week is our season preview episode. We will be covering opening night. It's one of our more anticipated games of the season, and we will be talking plenty about Philadelphia. But we want to make sure that we go over the Chiefs 53-man roster. We know a lot of you guys that follow us are Chiefs fans. Tyler's a huge Chiefs fan, and we want to make sure that we give you this information because I think we were pretty accurate last year. I think we only missed one or two spots. But before we,
Yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, last year, I mean, really the only difference was like, oh, they decided to keep an extra linebacker instead of a secondary, but nothing crazy on our end last year. We're super excited to make more predictions.
Yeah, before we jump into each position and Tyler and I debate our differences here, I want to make sure I cover players who went on IR either earlier in the preseason or this past week. There's been some recent developments here. One of which being is former first round pick out of Kansas State, Felix Anudike Uzama, is on season-ending IR with a hamstring injury. Brutal. He has just not gotten going, and he will be out the rest of the year. Another player that is on season-ending IR is Dion Bush, who suffered a lower body injury in the preseason game. And then Janarius Robinson is also placed on IR. And me personally, I expect undrafted tight end Jake Brenningstool to be placed on IR due to an injury, but that has not yet been confirmed. That's just an educated guess from me. So before we get started and you say, where's Felix? Felix is on IR. He will not be making a 53-man roster, sadly.
Mm-hmm. Zach, do you want to go position by position? How do you want to do this tonight?
Yeah, let's go through position by position, and then when we reach a disagreement, we can spend some time discussing maybe our rationale, either for or against, and maybe do a little debate, maybe coming to an ultimate conclusion at the end. But we can just start with quarterback. This is a super easy one. I don't think we'll disagree here at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I do have Patrick Mahomes making the roster. Breaking news: it is expected that he'll make it. I've got Gardner Minshew also making the roster, and per the NFL rules, you do not have to keep three quarterbacks. You can only keep, or you can keep two, but you can have an emergency quarterback on your roster that does not count against the 53. And so, who I have making that roster is Chris Olacombe over Bailey Zappi. For me, it just comes down to Chris Olacombe, number one, playing better this preseason and just knowing the playbook more than Bailey Zappi does.
Fascinating. Actually, we do disagree. I have Zappy as the emergency quarterback due to the fact that Olakun is going to clear waivers and make it to the practice squad again. Zappy won't. It's a great opportunity to have four capable quarterbacks. Some teams like the Browns don't have one. So the Chiefs are going to prioritize that and keep Zappy as the emergency.
I love that the Chiefs are in a position to. The biggest QB battle is the emergency QB. But based on the way Zappi and Olacombe have played, I just don't trust Bailey Zappi to lead the team if Mahomes and Minshew go out.
Yeah, and I think that's a completely fair assessment. I think it could go either way. It's just a matter of, to me, it's a why even bring in Zappy in the first place if you're not gonna keep him as the emergency. It just feels like weird because they brought in Minshew, total sense. because Olakun's not ready to be an NFL backup behind Mahomes. You need an experienced starter. The Chiefs have been doing that for years with Henne and Wentz and
And now Minshew.
Matt Moore, and now Minshew. I mean, it's a tried and true formula, and Andy Reid loves it. Zappe's interesting because he's a younger than their typical backup quarterback, and it seemed like a pointless move to sign if they weren't going to keep him. But I could see it going either way, personally.
And that's one where it really comes down to what is Andy Reid's feeling about the strategy. If he's going with truly the best three quarterbacks, then it'll be Olacom, I think. But you're right. As you said, Chris Olacom's going to clear waivers and they can easily get him back on the practice squad while some other team, given Bailey Zappi's experience, might go bring him in for the backup quarterback role.
Sure. So, given that, I didn't anticipate a disagreement so early on. Let's move on to running back and see if we're in the same boat here. I have Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, rookie seventh rounder Brashard Smith, and Carson Steele rounding out the running back room with just 4 this season. No fifth back. Elijah Mitchell is released. Brought him in the offseason, but he has not shown any flashes, hasn't shown the burst.
We do actually have another disagreement, but one thing
Okay.
I want to remind the audience is that while obviously, with quarterback and running back, we know who the starters are going to be. As we release our order, we're not necessarily talking about the starters. So, um that's kind of where our heads are a little bit, but we're not necessarily debating the order. I don't think Carson Steele's going to make it. I
And
think
see,
Elijah Mitchell's going to make it. I like the 4 running back room. But I think Elijah Mitchell is going to make it, and I think Brashard Smith is going to fulfill that fullback role.
and so I this was the last change I made to my 53 man. I mean, at the 11th hour, I've had Carson Steele off my roster pretty much the entire time. I think that when we watched him in training camp, he was horrific. He was awful. And watching him in the preseason, he had a breakout campaign last year, but he hasn't shown flashes. And per PFF, he has a pass block grade of 0.
And this is Carson Steele, correct?
Carson Steele has a pass block grade of 0 and an offensive grade of 47. But the only reason he's on my all of these things lend to you being right about him not making the roster. So why the hell did I put him on my roster? Because Andy Reid is a stubborn son of a gun. And if he likes a player, he tends to keep him. And this coaching staff, for whatever reason, continues to play Carson Steele highly in the depth chart during these preseason games. If he was repping late in the fourth quarter, he's done. But he was repping with like the high twos with the offense, and they value his versatility as a fullback, kick returner, special teamer. And so for that reason, yes, he has been a bad running back, but I think that they still value his versatility and they'll put him in over Elijah Mitchell because Mitchell only plays running back. Steele plays 4 different positions.
And that's fair. And that's why I said that, yes, while Mitchell is going to be a running back and only play running back, I think that fullback role, because Andy Reid does love a fullback, I think that fullback role will be fulfilled by Brashard Smith. I think that special teams role, such as kick returner, will be fulfilled by Smith as well. Carson still reminds me of Reese Zammit from last year. He was a huge fan favorite, but just not that great at football. And there's not a spot for you. As much as the fans love you, if you're not good at football, I just don't think there's a spot for him on this team.
And would you rule out them keeping a 5th running back and keeping Mitchell and Steele and slotting Steele as kind of a fullback?
Not when you think about what you have to do for wide receiver,
Okay.
which segues us to wide receiver. Due to Rashee Rice at some point being suspended, I think you have to keep 7 wide receivers because even while he's suspended, you have to leave an active roster spot for him. So the Chiefs need 6 receivers when he's gone. And so my 7 receivers, and again, this is not in any particular order. This is not my exact depth chart, but I think my 7 receivers are going to be Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy. Those are pretty much locks. But then I also think they're going to keep Juju Smith Schuster, rookie Jalen Royals, and I think they're also going to keep Nico Remigio and Tyquan Thornton.
Y-
When Rice comes back, do they keep 7? I think Remigio goes to the practice squad. But for day one active roster, I think those are the 7 wide receivers.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that something is clear. When he does actually get suspended, whenever that is, they are allowed to move him to the IR/suspended like bucket of the roster, and that does open up a spot. But as of right
Okay.
now, they don't know when the suspension will be levied. They know when the hearing is, the 30th of September. So they at least have to keep, I think, a replacement on the roster like Thornton, someone who I don't think will clear waivers at this point, someone who's played good enough that a
Oh, yeah.
receiver needy team who's facing a lot of injuries would scoop him right up, i.e., Minnesota or San Francisco. Both are
Hmm.
struggling for early wide receiver depth and would pick him up. So you have to keep 7 if you think Thornton's going to be, because the length now that people are saying Rashee Rice's suspension is going to be is 5 games. I've seen it everywhere, 5 games. You need somebody in that 6 receiver spot in case of an injury that's capable. And I have the same list as you, by the way. That's why I'm spending so much time on this. I have Worthy, Royals, Smith, Schuster, Hollywood, Remigio, Rice, and Thornton. I think they have been far and away in camp the best receivers. They
You
in
said
the
you do
game.
have Remigio?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
And I agree with what you said entirely. As soon as Rice comes back from his suspension, and if there's no injuries, Remigio right back down to the practice squad. But I do think that he's gonna kind of have an in-season competition with Brashard Smith for kick returner.
Do you think Nico Remigio would clear waivers?
I mm,
Because he's kind of been our practice squad bubble guy the last 3, 4 years.
uh, I think that there's a greater than 50% chance that he clears waivers, but I don't think the Chiefs have decided on their kick returner yet. And the way that
Okay.
Dave Tube talks about Nico Remigio, it's like he values him as their number one returner, and Brashard Smith is a guy that still has some development to do at that spot. He is just a rookie, so I think Remigio is going to start the season as the punt returner, and so that's where he carries his value.
And I think the comment you just made solidifies Nico Remigio on the roster. If Dave Tobe likes him, he's staying on.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. Dave Tobe speaks highly of Remigio, so I would be shocked if he's not on the initial 53, and he has a chance to stick even after Rashee Rice is back.
So we've got we obviously disagree on a couple names, but we agree on the numbers. We've got two quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 7 wide receivers. I've got 4 tight ends as well.
Same here.
Which I know these sound like high numbers, but my total offensive line count comes to 26 total.
You said offensive line. You mean offense, right?
Or offense, yes. My total offensive count comes to 26 total, which is really on par with the NFL. Do you what's your tight end room look like?
Yeah, I believe we have the same one. Tight ends look like Travis Kelsey, Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and Robert Tunyon.
Yeah.
Um, Robert Tunyon has absolutely surprised me in the preseason and camp. When we went to camp, he was making a ton of plays. I was like, all right, let's pump the brakes. He looks good, but it's day one. We were literally there the first day of camp. We get in the
Yeah, day one
games.
I didn't have him on my roster.
Yeah, and then we get into the games, and he has been the best receiving threat for the twos pretty much in both games. Tunyon has been extremely dependable. He's made a lot of plays. He looks like he belongs on this roster, maybe even above on the depth chart, Jared Wiley. He just looks that dependable. I mean, he's their 4th highest graded offensive player per PFF in the preseason. It's
Wow.
it's Mike Caliendo, Creed Humphrey, Robert Tunyon, and Jared Wiley. So both those tight ends are doing
We're
great.
good at center at least.
Yeah, right. No kidding. So Robert Tunyon absolutely deserves a spot in the roster, and his best grade, Tyler, is his pass catching grade. Who he has the number one grade on the entire Chiefs team in the preseason for passing offense of
Hey.
80.5. Gardner Minshew is second at 77. So
And as we're hyping up Tunyon, I don't think Tunyon's gonna be a massive threat in the offense when the regular season comes by
oh
any
no,
means. But I agree. His numbers don't indicate any reason to cut him. There's
Yeah.
no reason you should cut Robert Tunyon, especially if, to your credit, he is maybe outperforming Jared Wiley right now. There's no way we're cutting Wiley. He was a rookie. He's a rookie couple years ago, last year.
Yeah, he was a fourth round pick last year, coming into his
Okay.
second season. And to Wiley's credit, he's actually ranked higher as an offensive grade because his run blocking is that much better than Tunyon's. Both of them deserve a spot on this roster. That's why I'm keeping four tight ends when most NFL teams usually go with three. Um, so yeah, both of them have done enough to justify a roster spot, in my opinion, especially with the kickoff touchback moving up to the 35, making quality
Hmm.
special teamers more important. I think it's going to lead. We kind of projected it last year and it didn't quite happen because teams weren't using the um, teams were still just booting it out of the end zone anyway. I think now that the kickoff, we at least we've seen it in the preseason is going to become more of a factor, and it's going to require teams to keep more special teamers on uh, on their roster. And I think the Chiefs are doing that by keeping Robert Tunyon.
And the last thing about special teams, really, I mean, because special teams is locked in, there's really not even going to be a debate there. I wish we had Justin Reed on our team still, because I think this would be the perfect year to put Justin Reed at kickoff kicker, because he can boot it there, he can
Yeah,
get it to the ends, he can get it to the goal line. But you also have, if there's only one guy between the end zone and the returner, I'd rather have it be Justin Reed than Harrison Butker.
I agree. It sucks to lose him right after it's gonna happen. And one more reason, I know that we both agree that Tunyon is on the roster, but Jared Wiley is 61st on the team with a 55 special teams rating, and Tunyon is 14th on the team with a 67. So he's 12 points
Okay.
higher than Wiley on a special teams rating. So not only has he been great receiving, he's been great on special teams. So the Chiefs, I'm really confident will take four tight ends. But let's move on to our next position. We're going to go offensive line, specifically offensive tackle. What do you got, Tyler? I've got four.
So when I did offensive line as a whole room, but technically speaking, with offensive line, I've got Josh Simmons, Jalen Moore, Jawan Taylor, and Wanya Morris. So I guess when I'm looking at it, I do have four tackles as well. And I
Okay.
assume you probably have the same four as me.
I have four tackles and the same guys. I know there's been some buzz about Wanya Morris being traded and another player like uh I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I would feel like an idiot if I mispronounced it, but it Esa Pole, ESA POLE. I mean, he's been playing really well. He
I
has the
think that
best.
would be great if we can get a trade because he is not one of the offensive linemen that I have. So if we can trade that guy, that'd be great.
No, I'm talking about trading Wanya and keeping somebody else like
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Driscoll or Pole. Esa Pole has the highest pass blocking grade of the preseason at an 85 on 42 pass blocking snaps.
I
Wanya
got you.
Morris is someone that Chiefs fans don't like and want to trade, but I don't think that Brett Veach will make a move. I do think that those four tackles are the tackles that are going to make the roster.
I think so too. And then guards, I've got Kingsley Sumateyama.
Suma Tautia.
I call him Kingsley. I've got Kingsley, Trey Smith, and Mike Caliendo.
Gotcha. So you're only keeping 9 offensive
I am
linemen.
only keeping 9,
Okay.
correct.
So I,
But mind you, Mike Caliendo is a guy that can play center and guard. He's very versatile. And I think my other guy that I'll name when we talk about centers, he's another guy that can play guard or center, just like Mike Caliendo.
Gotcha. I have 10 offensive linemen, and I think that that's going to be really the only position where we have a different number of players. And I have
Hmm.
CJ Hansen making this roster as well, only
And I think
because
go ahead.
only because of how well he has played in the preseason. CJ Hansen is the most consistent across the board lineman the Chiefs have currently because Kingsley has been a horrific pass blocker one of the worst grades I've ever seen. He's a 16. It's a deep red color, a 16 pass blocking grade. Um,
Oh,
and he and he only has a 63 offensive grade. He's got a decent run blocking grade, but for context, CJ Hansen has a 70 PFF grade with a 72 pass block and a 67 run block on 87 snaps. That's a really consistent performance that I think at least should do enough to get you a roster spot behind an uncertain left guard position. Mike Caliendo's also been really good, but I think you need a fourth guard if one of your guards is super uncertain. The slated starter, mind you.
and I agree. I like keeping 4 guards, and really my other name is Hunter Norzad. You can argue that he's a guard as well. So, the last part I've got is Hunter Norzad, um, and Creed Humphrey, of
I
course.
have them both as well, and I think as an offensive line unit, we're only off by one player, and I'm just adding C.J. Hansen just for depth.
And that's what I was gonna ask. You've got all of my 9 plus CJ Hansen, and
Yeah,
in a world where we're not gonna keep 7 wide receivers, yeah, CJ Hansen definitely makes the roster. I think he's in a competition with Ethan Driscoll, but with me keeping 7 wide receivers, I can't have a total of 27 offensive players. I think that's just too many offensive players. I've got to cut somebody, and for me, CJ Hansen didn't make it.
and that's fair. And I have a sneaking suspicion. I know the position group that I sacrificed to have that seventh wide receiver. Um, but we can move on to the defense. We'll start with D tackles here. Um,
Real quick, you have 25 offensive players.
you said
Or
you
no,
have
you have
20.
27.
I was gonna say
You
you
have
have 26
27.
and I have 27. That's correct.
Okay, you have 27 offensive players. I have 26. Typically in the NFL, the standard is about 25 of each plus the 3 special teams.
Mhm.
So, all right, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead with defensive tackle.
Gotcha. So I have four, and I'm sure we have the same four. Chris Jones, Mike Pennell, the two starters, and then rookie second round pick Omar Norman Lott, and veteran Jerry Tillery.
I agree with that. Jerry Tillery is one that I'm happy to add because he was not on my day one roster. My day one roster um was think I had Malik Herring. I know he's an edge, but I had him over Jerry Tillery. I did not have Jerry Tillery on my initial roster, but I did have Malik Herring. But Jerry Tillery is someone who has, I think, done well at camp. And like you said, I mean, we agree with that.
Right. And I think especially with the early struggles of Omar Norman Lott, um,
Hmm.
who it's not like he's doing bad per se. He's just not quite leaping onto the scene. I mean, he's a not super polished rookie, so it's completely expected. It's important to
Hmm.
keep another D lineman behind him for depth to keep him rotating into positions where he'll be a strength. So uh, I think that Tillery has done a really good job of proving that he's that guy throughout camp.
I agree. Defensive end, we had to make a change because this is where we normally would have seen FAU.
Hmm.
But with him gone, I do have 5 defensive ends, even with him gone. Do you have 5, or is this the position group you sacrificed?
So this is not the position group I sacrificed. I thought
Okay.
about it. I initially my penultimate roster projection, I had 4 edge rushers, but I have since added one.
So, okay, so we've got the same number. My 5 for defensive ends is George Karloftis, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, rookie Ashton Gelati, and Malik Herring. Malik Herring was added when FAU went down.
Yep, you nailed it. You even listed them in the same order that I have them listed. So it was
Nice.
really easy. It was really
Nice.
easy for me to check those boxes. No disagreements there. I think Malik Herring slides right in to FAU's position. I don't think he slides into his role, but I do think that the open roster spot goes to Herring, and Gelati is going to take
Mhm.
over that FAU position, the rotational pass rusher. I think that's why they brought him in. But yes, I
I
agree.
agree with that.
Let's move on. We have no disagreements there to linebacker.
But real quick, I as much as I hate to see Felix go down, I'm a Cats fan, just like you got the Cats flag behind you. I love Felix, but I think weirdly enough, this injury is going to be good for him because he he wasn't a bubble player, but he was about to take a lot of heat if he didn't start playing better. And I think this weirdly enough saves him a year.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, people are really focusing on Veach's busts as of late. And I think for good reason. They're in the spotlight a lot. FAU obviously getting hurt kind of thrust him to the spotlight. Sky Moore's time on the roster. I mean, we haven't even spoken his name yet, but he's not making the roster. He's a big Veach reach. So I want FAU to take time off because I watched him in college. I know that he's got it in him. He had a six
Hmm.
stat game I was in attendance for. I mean, he's got it. He just needs, I think mentally, he needs to kind of get back to it. Hopefully, he has a good response to the injury. But yeah, if he came out and didn't play well this year, it probably would have spelled the end of his career. So it kind of buys him a year on the IR.
And because this is the case data to me coming, that six sack game, is that the official number, or is that or does that include the two they took away?
I think that actually includes the two they took away, which I think was BS. They should not have taken those two away.
I agree. For context to the viewers, by rule, if if you have a sack fumble, you are credited for a sack. However, after the game, because on two of his sacks that were fumbled, another offensive player picked up the ball and advanced the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. So by rule, they could not credit him a sack because the ball was advanced forward.
Yeah. Slight tangent, but he deserved those
But
two
yeah, my
sacks.
apologies. You said Felix that I had to talk about the
He
Cats for
was
a
so
second.
violent. He was so violent in the backfield. He caused two fumbles, and he doesn't get credit for them. He's got it.
Yeah,
He just needs
yeah.
a year
But
to. I don't know. I don't know if it helps or hurts him because I think the room only gets more crowded. But maybe if a guy like a Menahue doesn't stick around, or a guy like Dana leaves for a bigger contract, it could open up a spot for Felix. And I think that may be what's working in his advantage. So I generally agree with you. Let the room get less crowded. Let him recover from injury because it's a
hmm
hamstring thing. I think he'll end up being healthy by the end of the year. He just
and
was a
then he'll
victim
be in
of
full strength next season, of course.
yeah, he'll get a full camp.
But let's
But
go on to linebacker though. I've got five linebackers. I've got Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, Leo Chenal, and then I also have Jack Cochran and rookie Jeff Bassa.
I have that same exact lineup at linebacker with one caveat. Uh, Jack Cochran is currently injured. If he recovers in time, great. That's exactly what we have. We both agree. If he doesn't recover in time and gets put on like the pup or the IR that keeps him out for the first 4 weeks of the season, I have Cam Jones taking his spot. Um,
I agree with that, and I wouldn't be shocked if that happens too. Let him get a little bit of time to recover a little bit more. I think Cam Jones has been a reliable linebacker.
right,
I agree with that.
but Cochran is not playing in the preseason game due to this injury. And the timeline is a little foggy on whether he'll be ready. Obviously, we mentioned how important special teams is. That linebacker five isn't really a linebacker; it's really a special teams one. And so you need that guy to be active on game day. And so I think that's why they could consider putting Cochran on IR to let him recover, so that they have that active special teams player that Tobe can unleash on the new kickoffs. But if Cochran's
Honestly, I think
healthy,
that's a good idea. I agree with you. Now, I think we should do that. Put him on the IR to start the season, and then bring in him.
yeah, especially if there's any semblance of him not being healthy for week one, you guys got a tough week one game with a lot of travel, going to Brazil, and a weird schedule, starting a little earlier than other teams. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Um, but obviously, Jack Cochran could just recover and be ready for week one. I don't know. I think he's gonna at the end of the season. I think he'll be the guy they choose to be on their playoff roster. But moving on to corners,
Sure.
I think this is where we differ, Tyler. How many corners do you have?
So the way Spags does his defense is sometimes safeties play corner, sometimes corners play safeties. So I'll tell you my whole defensive back room. My whole defensive back room is 10. I assume
Yeah.
you've got nine.
I do
based
have
on
9.
our number disagreements. You've got 9. So I guess technically true corners and only corners 4, and then 6 just safeties slash corner as well. I've got Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Nazeeh Johnson, and Christian Fulton.
Gotcha. And I would include Noel Williams as a corner. That's where I have him. He's been repping on the outside for Kansas
And
City.
I do have Noel Williams in my like just defensive back line. So I do agree. I've got those same numbers as well. I also have Noel Williams.
Right. And he's a rookie. He's listed in PFF as a corner. But you're right. Spags really deploys these guys wherever they're going to be most
Yes,
utilitarian
that's why it's
to
hard to say
run.
corner versus safety.
Yeah, because Noel Williams, to be fair, Noel Williams played 8 box snaps and 58 corner snaps. So I say it's safe to say that they're really trying to rep him at corner. But look at a guy like Christian Roland Wallace. He has 11 box snaps, 9 free safety snaps, and 37 slot snaps, and he has 2 snaps listed as a defensive lineman. That's just Spags, man. Chris Roland Wallace was playing edge rusher
Oh
in
man,
Spags'
talk
system.
about versatility there. Jeez.
Yeah, so that's just lends credence to what you were just saying. Spags will play these guys anywhere. But I do think that Noel Williams has moved to corner, even though in training camp
That's fair.
he was repping in the slot and he was repping at safety a little bit. But I agree with you. Those are the 5. What was your 6th corner? What was your extra DB that you have that I don't? Joshua Williams,
So,
right?
I actually
Or is it
do
Roland Wallace?
not have Joshua Williams making my roster.
Okay.
My extra guys. So we're 5 for 5 so far, correct? We agree on McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Nazeeh Johnson, Christian Fulton, and rookie Noel Williams.
Yep.
We
Yep.
agree
We
on
are
those
5.
5.
Yep.
Okay, so then the rest of my defensive back room is Shamari Connor. I assume we agree on that,
Mm-hmm.
along with Jaden Hicks, starting
Mm-hmm.
corner. Really,
Starting
I've
safety.
got yes, I've got Brian Cook.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Mike Edwards and Christian Roland Wallace.
See, that's where we disagree. Man, it's so hard to cut Christian Roland Wallace because I think he's played really well. But he's the guy I
Hmm.
leave off. Notably, we both also leave off Joshua Williams, 2 guys who,
Hmm.
a guy who at the beginning of training camp were like, they're not going to cut Joshua Williams. And now we're like, yeah, they're probably going to cut Joshua Williams, man. Uh, a
The
guy,
reason. Go ahead.
a guy that I thought was in no danger of losing the roster, but I guess that's a really crowded room.
And the other reason that I want to talk to the viewers about with why we think they're going to um cut him is because he's a fan favorite, yes, and it's not that he's bad. It's more of where he is when he's taking reps. When we were at training camp, we were at the first 2 days, and then I went 2 more days the following week, and Joshua Williams was not in with the ones ever. He was never with the twos, and he was almost getting a little bit of Sky Moore treatment. Like you never saw him with any of the starters. And if you're gonna make the roster, there's at least a couple moments where you get put in with the starters to see how you play with them. And we never saw that.
Yeah, and what eventually made me sold on my decision to cut Roland Wallace. Um, I know that we both agreed with Joshua Williams, and yeah, I saw the same things. I just he's a casualty of a room where they brought in a lot of talent, i.e., Noel Williams and Christian Fulton. You can't bring in 2 corners and expect to keep everybody from last year. It's not how it works.
Hmm.
And so Roland Wallace is a casualty because I was looking for someone to cut after I added the 7th wide receiver because we both agree that that's necessary at least in the beginning part of the season.
Hmm.
Roland Wallace so far in the preseason has posted a 50 grade on defense.
I think he had a good first game, but in the second game he was not good.
It's not because of his run defense and his tackling. Those are both his run defense is in the mid 70s and his tackling is actually an 81. His coverage grade was a 44. I just don't think that you can have a guy with a 44 coverage grade. He's not ready to play in Spags' system yet because he may be versatile, but if you can't cover, you can't play in Spags' system. Look at the guys that they've had in the past. McDuffie's a crazy coverage guy. Reed was great in coverage, and I think that they're trying to get the same thing out of Hicks and Cook right now. Cook has a 67 coverage grade. That's the highest of any safety on the roster right now. So to have a 44, that's 20 points, 23 points lower than Brian Cook, and Brian Cook is not lauded for being an amazing coverage guy. So to be that much lower than him, I just feel like he's not ready yet. He needs some more time to develop. But I do think that if they send a receiver down once Rashid Rice is back from suspension later on in the season, that Roland Wallace could be a call up.
I agree with that. And so, as we wrap this up, rather than spending time on special teams because we only have one of each, I wanna ask you, with the third preseason game coming up, the viewers are not gonna know a lot of names. Who are two or three names that you think people need to be listening for the names of in this final preseason game?
Yeah, I think that one guy that you really want to pay attention to is Ashton Gelati, the rookie, number 97. Because with Felix's injury, he's probably next man up in terms of rotational pass rusher. If they ever rotate out Karloftis or Dana, it's going to be Amenahue and Gelati. So listen for him, see how he plays, evaluate him, because he's kind of a guy that maybe wasn't going to get a ton of playing time, maybe could have even been inactive because you can only carry, I believe it's
Mm.
46 or 47 players on your active roster into game day. I believe it's actually 46. So he may have been a guy that was not going to be active. So listen for Gelati, see if he can make plays on special teams and on defense. Another guy that I would pay attention to is offensive line. See if Kingsley can improve. Because if he can improve enough, maybe they don't keep a 10th lineman. Maybe CJ Hansen doesn't make the roster. Um, Listen for Hansen and Norzad. If Hansen and Norzad play well, they're playing their way onto the roster basically as depth. And then listen for Brashard Smith at running back versus Carson Steele. Pay attention to that battle. I don't think it's decided yet. I think they very easily could keep somebody else. So those are the three names I would pay attention to. Those three positions. What about you? Do you think do you agree with my choices? Do you think I would prioritize this guy over someone you said?
Um, I think Christian Roland Wallace is my number one name to listen for because I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be getting a lot of reps to really see, are you going to make it or are you not going to make it? If someone's on the bubble, Andy Reid's going to give you every opportunity to show somebody, to show the coaches what they can do. I think Christian Roland Wallace is going to get a lot of playing time, and he's a name I would be paying attention to. If he's playing a lot and he's playing well, I think he's got a shot at making the roster. If he doesn't play well like he did last week, I don't think he'll make it. He's my number one guy. Uh, my number two guy is Mike Edwards. I don't think he's a lock for. I don't think he's a lock. I think Mike Edwards could be because especially if Roland Wallace does play well, if they decide to only keep eight, if they decide to only keep eight defensive backs, who's getting cut? So I would say maybe Mike Edwards. So Christian Roland Wallace and Mike Edwards. I would also pay attention to Malik Herring. Just because Felix is out, I don't think he's a lock to make the roster in. I think he will, but I think Malik Herring is a guy to listen for on defense as well. And then offensively, I agree. Wanya Morris, I think he's going to get a lot of reps to see, especially if he is possibly going to get traded. He's going to get a lot of playing time if he plays super well. Maybe they make a trade, maybe they don't. If he doesn't play well, maybe he ends up being lineman number 9, lineman number 10. So Um, Wanya Morris, along with CJ Hansen and Hunter Norzad, are some people, and then Brashard Smith. So,
Okay.
quick recap on my list: Christian Roland Wallace versus Mike Edwards, Malik Herring in general, Brashard Smith in general, and then Hunter Norzad versus CJ Hansen.
I think it's really interesting that you bring up Mike Edwards, and I want to touch on this before we leave because I don't know if you brought it up because of he wasn't passing the eye test for you, or just because of how crowded this and this D back room is.
A little bit of
But
both.
and like I say this a lot, but I want to make sure that I say it again. PFF grades don't mean everything, and they miss things sometimes. But I think it's significant to look at them because it gives us an idea of what coaches might be seeing in players. You know, uh, you got to synthesize your sources, combine PFF grades with the eye test with what we see in camp. But I think it's interesting that you bring up Mike Edwards, and I look at his PFF grade, and it's 50. It is bottom 35 on 34th on
Oh,
the list for the Chiefs, and you can only keep, like we said, 26 or 27 defensive players. Being outside of that, and he doesn't have a category over 57. 50 overall grade with a 50 run D grade, 54 tackling, 57 pass rush. I don't know why he has a pass rush grade, and a 55 coverage. So he hasn't done anything great. It's certainly interesting to look at, especially when a guy like Roland Wallace is doing a couple of things right. I like your analysis there. I think it's interesting.
we will find out at some point after this weekend. The Chiefs play their final preseason game at 7:30 this Friday night, the only preseason game at Arrowhead Stadium. Thank you guys for listening to our extra long episode of That's DPI.
Tune in next week for our season preview. Thanks for watching.